Hello and greetings from the beautiful Isle of North Uist in the Western Isles, where the sun is shining today. Back in 2011, I was a chaplain in the Royal Navy. Aboard HMS Campbelltown, we went to sea for one last time before the ship was decommissioned in April that year. We sailed up from Plymouth to Campbelltown, Argyllshire, and then later to Saint-Nazaire on the west coast of France. Guests on board included veterans of the raid on Saint-Nazaire in 1942 and representatives of one of the ship's affiliates, the Worshipful Company of Wax Chandlers, one of the oldest livery companies in the City of London. Talking with our guests, I picked up that the Wax Chandlers supply wax candles which, when lit, give light within St Paul's Cathedral in London. They've done that since 1371. So when they asked if I would lead a service for them in the ship's hangar, there being no helicopter embarked, I was delighted to do so, choosing as the Bible reading this text, John chapter 8, verse 12. Jesus said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Quite a few of the ship's company also attended the service. We didn't actually light any candles in the hangar that afternoon, but everyone made the connection between the Bible text and the wax chandlers. Jesus is at the Feast of Tabernacles. The feast has just ended, and suddenly he says, "I am the light of the world." The Feast of Tabernacles was an occasion when Jews would make their way to Jerusalem. Candles would be lit on the floor of a part of the temple. Perhaps hundreds of candles would be lit for the whole week. And then at the end, all the candles would go out. If you were walking from Bethlehem to Jerusalem and you were approaching the temple on Mount Zion at night, you'd see the glow of light. When the Feast of Tabernacles is finished this time, the lights have all gone out, and suddenly there's this voice saying, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." Jesus is commenting on the human condition. He's saying by implication that apart from himself, the human condition is darkness. Men and women are in darkness, their minds are darkened, they're blind, so to speak, and cannot see. The next chapter in John, chapter 9, is about a blind man who is healed. It's a recurring theme in John's Gospel that Jesus has come to dispel the darkness. It's a theme which we find in the introduction of his gospel. Jesus is coming into the world as the light of the world to dispel the darkness. What kind of darkness? He may have in mind two kinds of darkness. There's the darkness that describes, relatively speaking, the Old Covenant. As they transition from the Old Covenant to the New Covenant, what have all these feasts been, such as the Feast of Tabernacles? They've been types or shadows or sketches or preparation. The Old Testament, the Old Covenant, was like the sketch as compared with the full painting. Relative darkness. John has been telling that to us from the very beginning. In words which we often hear read at Christmas every year, the law came by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. And of his fullness we have all received one blessing after another. John is not saying that there wasn't any grace or there wasn't any truth in the Old Testament, but he is saying that in comparison it's like darkness and light. Jesus seems to be saying at the end of this Feast of Tabernacles, if you put your trust in me, you'll never need to celebrate this feast ever again, because it's coming to an end. I am the light of the world. But perhaps more importantly, Jesus is speaking of darkness in a more personal way. There is a darkness in the human heart. Here is Jesus now at the end of the Feast of Tabernacles, when all the candles have gone out, and there's his voice saying, I am the light of the world. He's saying, if you believe in me, you'll walk out of the darkness into the light, the sunshine of new life and glory and inheritance. People are in darkness without Jesus. Not only does he say something about the human condition, but he tells us something about his own person by way of the self-revelation that he gives when he says, I am the light of the world. What does he mean? He's saying that he's fulfilling prophecy. We read at Christmas from Isaiah 9 every year. The people who dwelt in darkness have seen a great light. Upon them has the light shined. Jesus is saying, I am that light. I am the one of whom the Old Testament speaks. I am the one about whom the Old Testament prophesies. I am the fulfillment of every promise of the Messiah in the Old Testament. I am he. It's one of the claims of Jesus that he fulfills the promises, the prophecies of the Old Testament. They find their fulfillment in him. He is the light. But he's also saying that the world is in darkness. He was claiming to be the one who led the people of God out of the Exodus into the wilderness, into the promised land. That's who he's claiming to be. Part of what the Feast of Tabernacles was about was the Exodus period, when a pillar of light led the people through the wilderness. Jesus is now saying, I am that light. I am the one who leads the people of God into the ways of salvation and truth and fullness. For those who are in darkness, he is the one who deals with that darkness. The Gospels record how later on Jesus is lifted up from the earth on that cross, and there is darkness for 3 hours. In the middle of the day, Jerusalem was dark. Jesus was taking upon himself the darkness of the human condition. As our sin and guilt were assigned to Jesus, he cries out in the midst of that darkness, my God, why have you forsaken me? Because he had entered into the darkness of the human condition. He had become our substitute, so that you and I, by faith in him, can experience the light, the sunshine of life eternal. 3 days later, on that glorious resurrection morning, from the darkness of that tomb, he walked out into the light, the sunshine of that garden, resurrected. In the book of Revelation, it says that the city of God has no need of light or of the sun or the moon or the stars, because Jesus is the light. But he's saying more than that too when he says, I am the light of the world, because he's making a claim to be God. John, when he writes his first letter, says, God is light. We read in Hebrews 1, Jesus is the radiance of the glory of God. Jesus says, I am the light of the world. He's saying, I'm an expert witness about heaven. I'm an expert witness about God. I'm an expert witness about the Father, because heaven is my home. That's where I live. I can tell you what it's like. I can give you the details, because I am an eyewitness. The good news is that in a miserable, darkened world, there is a light shining, a brilliant light. in John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, when Pilgrim sets out from the city of destruction and meets Evangelist, Evangelist gives him a scroll, and on it is written the phrase, "Flee from the wrath to come." Christian reads it, and he says to Evangelist, "Where is there to flee to?" And Evangelist says, "Do you see yonder wicket gate?" And Pilgrim says, "No, I don't see it. Where is it?" Evangelist says, "Do you see yonder lamp?" "Yes, I think I can see the light." "Well, walk towards it. Go towards the light." Jesus is saying, "I am the light of the world. And if you believe in me, you will never walk in darkness." Wesley put it this way, and we sang this at my father's funeral in February 2022. "Long my imprisoned spirit lay, fast bound in sin and nature's night. Thine eye diffused a quickening ray. I woke, the dungeon flamed with light. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I rose, went forth, and followed thee." We were not made to be in darkness. I remember going on a final exercise with the recruits from the Infantry Training Centre, Catterick, in 2003, to Galloway Forest. I parked up my Army-issue car and walked to where the troops were, in a forest. It must have been wintertime, but there was no snow on the ground on this occasion. In that forest, it was as dark can be. No ambient light at all, no torches allowed. So I remember stumbling around, hoping I wouldn't tread on any soldiers. I found somewhere to take my Bergen off and get my sleeping bag and my survival bag out and grab some sleep. Complete darkness is unforgettable. Inside that forest, I can tell you, it was pitch black. You couldn't see a thing. That's a picture of the human condition. But Jesus says, "I am the light of the world. And if you believe in me, you will never walk in darkness anymore. And you need never experience an eternity of darkness." So let's trust, let's continue to trust in Jesus, the light of the world.